Hi there, I'm really excited about today's video. It is especially for the grade 4s at Benjamin Pine Primary School. If you're a teacher, please click on the link below and you can download the lesson plan and a worksheet for this video. For this video, you're going to need a piece of paper, your pencil and a ruler to draw the picture. We're going to be colouring our picture in with our pastels, our oil pastels, and then later in the lesson you will either need to use your watercolours or some food colouring that's been watered down. Let's get started. Now, you've been learning about your 3 primary colours. Those are red, blue and yellow. What we're going to look at today is how we can make secondary colours. When you mix primary colours together, any 2 primary colours, you make a secondary colour. So let's see who can guess it first. If you mix yellow and blue together, what colour would we get? The answer is green. So green is the first secondary colour that we're looking at today. If we took our yellow again and mixed it with red, do you know what we would get? You would get orange. Right. And then finally, if we take our last 2 primary colours, blue and red, and mix them together, you would get which secondary colour? The answer is purple. Right, so those are our 3 secondary colours: green, orange and purple. But for today's picture, you are not allowed to use these secondary colours. You're going to put them back in your pastel box. We are only going to be using the 3 primary colours, because technically you can make any colour ever made using these 3 colours and a little bit of black and white. Right, so let's get started drawing our picture now. We're going to be making this lovely sailboat. It's got lots of shapes, this picture. There are triangles and trapeziums. There's a big square here and a rectangle at the top, and we've got some triangles for the hills in the background. So it's a super simple picture. You can also see we've added some pattern to it. I know that you are learning about pattern this term in art. The first thing that we're going to do is make our big square and rectangle. Now I want you to use your pencil to do this. I'm going to be using a black Koki just so that it's really easy and clear for you to see the picture that I'm drawing. So we're going to go about 2/3 of the way up our page and draw a line across using our ruler. And then we're going to make the beach now. This is the beach part here. So we're going to move our ruler down a little bit more and draw another line across. Okay, you can put your ruler down for now. On the left-hand side of the page here, we've got some mountains that are in the shape of triangles. Now each one is a little bit different. Some are tall and skinny, and some are short and fat, and some of them are not equal. So I want you to try and make each of these little mountains a little bit different. So I'm just going to do a regular triangle first. Then my next one is going to be a little bit more wide and flat. And I'm going to do a little small one here, and then make my last one even smaller. So we've got 4 mountains. And now we're going to use triangles again for our boat's sails. So the boat has got 2 sails. You're going to draw a line straight down. This is going to be a line that both of the triangles are on. And then we're going to draw the triangle on the right first. That one's going to be slightly longer. So the triangle on the left, you start a little bit higher up and join it. If you would like to use your ruler, you can. So the one triangle must be smaller than the other one. Right, then we're going to just take a line a little bit down. That's going to be the mast of the boat. And then we're going to draw a nice trapezium. The trapezium, it should be a little bit longer than the 2 triangles that we've just drawn. So I've made mine go out a little bit there. Going to draw a fairly straight line on this side, and then a slanted line on the other side. And we've drawn all the shapes that we need for our picture. Let's pause the video for a few minutes so that everybody has their yacht and mountains drawn. The second step of drawing this picture is going to be colouring it in. So we're going to start with our boat. I'm doing red sails. Now I've done a stripy pattern on my sails, but if you would like to do a different pattern on yours, you're welcome to. It's your piece of art and you should be as creative as you like. I'm just going to do some nice stripes. So I'm going to use my red, which is a primary colour. Don't worry about outlining your sails for now. So if you would like to outline it in black, you should rather wait until you've coloured everything in and then outline it, because the black pastel can smudge and then it ruins the rest of your picture. You've got black pastel smudges all over your picture. So rather do the whole picture, colour in everything and then outline when you're done. Just adding a few more stripes into this. I drew my straps a little bit too far apart. Okay, what we're going to do next is colour in the hull or the bottom of the boat. Now we're going to make this orange. Orange is a secondary colour that we make with red and yellow. When you are mixing pastels together, you should always start with the darker colour first. So I'm going to take some red first, and the left hand side and the bottom of the boat are going to be darker, so I'm just going to colour in nicely and nice and hard with the red there. Press hard, and then I'm going to press lighter for the rest of the boat. When you press lightly, you leave room for more colour to join onto it. So where we've pressed really hard here, a lot of the yellow is not going to mix in and it's going to look more red. But where we've pressed lightly, there's lots of space for the yellow to join in and make a nice orange. Okay, so once you've coloured in lightly with your red, you're going to take your yellow and press nice and hard and colour in little circles. Imagine you're just mixing the two colours together. So the little circles will help mix it up nicely. The more red you add, the more red your orange will be. And then the more yellow you add, the more yellow it will be. So if you've used a lot of red on it already, you are going to have quite a red orange. If you use less red, then it's going to be a more bright yellowy orange. Okay, and we've mixed our two primary colours together and made a secondary colour. Right, what we're going to do next is colour in our beach. Now we're just going to make that yellow. And if you're like me, you've got a lot of red on this yellow pastel now. I just coloured in with mine because it looks nice to have a little bit of orange in between. But if you like, you can clean off your pastel before you colour in the beach. So I'm just going to go and colour in this section of the beach. You can see I'm getting little bits of red in my colouring, but I like that. Now I've done some grass in my picture here. Grass is green. Green is another secondary colour that we learnt about. You get green if you mix a little bit of blue with some yellow. So I've left a bit of space at the top of my picture here, and I'm going to take my blue pastel and go very lightly along the top of the beach area. Blue is a really strong colour, like red. So don't use too much of it, otherwise it's just going to look blue. Now I'm going over it with my yellow, back and forth mixing the two colours together. So we've got a little bit of grass at the end of our beach. Now we're going to do our mountains. Now, if you look at mountains that are really far away, they often look a little bit purple. So we're going to make our mountains purple. And purple is made with blue and red. So I'm going to start with my blue, colour really lightly. Remember, when you colour lightly, you leave space to mix in another colour. If you press hard, then there's not much space for the second colour to go onto the page and mix. Now I'm going to go over that with my red. If you think the color looks more red than purple, you're going to add some blue. And if you think it looks too blue, you'll just add a little bit more red. So I think mine is looking a little bit too red. I'm going to take my blue pastel, go over it again. Right, and we have our purple mountains in the background. What we're going to do now is colour in the sea. Now, instead of sitting for hours and hours and hours colouring in this massive square, we're going to put some patterns on the sea that make people think of the sea. So you could do some swirly lines or some wave patterns or zigzags if it's a really choppy day on the sea. We're just going to add a whole lot of patterns in. Now, patterns is something that you've been looking at in art this term. So you should have a couple of patterns in your mind. You're welcome to do your own patterns on the sea, or you can copy the ones that I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is to keep my pattern nice and straight, I'm going to just take my ruler and draw a couple of lines across my page so that I don't make my pattern go all skew down the page. I want to keep my pattern nice and straight. So I'm just going to make a couple of lines with my pastel. Don't have to press really hard, it's just to help you keep the pastel in line. Right, once you've drawn the lines, you can fill in some patterns. So I'm going to start with a nice simple zigzag pattern. And maybe a nice swirly pattern, any patterns that you think would make people think of the sea. It's just a way to make a picture a little bit more interesting. Right, and I'm just going to keep repeating my pattern all the way down the page. When we say something is a pattern, we just mean that it's been repeated or it's been done over and over again. So a pattern can be any picture that you repeat. So anything you like, you can do. You can pause the video on the coloured in picture to give everyone a chance to catch up and get their picture coloured in too. Doesn't matter how far you have gotten, I want everybody to put all of their stationery down and listen carefully to how we're going to paint our picture. Once I'm done explaining it, you can go ahead and paint your picture, and those of you that finish early have a really fun worksheet to fill out. Now, to paint our picture, you can either use your watercolours, and if you don't have watercolors, some food coloring that's been watered down will also do the trick. If you do have watercolors, what you need to do is take your paintbrush, dip it in some water, and put some water in the lid of your paints. Now, most watercolor paints have got little containers on the side, and that's for you to make your washes in. Watercolor paints are called washes. And to do a wash, you need to have some water first, then you're going to dip your brush in the paint, and this is called loading the brush. Get as much paint as you can and mix it into the water. Now, the reason these paints are called watercolors is because they need water to work. I'm going to go back and dip my paintbrush in the paints 3 times. What you can do is just check your paint on a scrap piece of paper to see that you're happy with how it looks. So I like mine that's nice and light, and I'm going to paint my sky with this paint now. So I load my brush up, dip it in the paint, and start painting. Now, with watercolors, once you start painting, you need to carry on going all the way till the end. You can't leave it too long. So I've painted my sky now. For the sea, I'm going to show you what you would do with, or show you what food coloring looks like. So I've used watercolors for my sky, and I'm going to use food coloring for my water. Doesn't matter how you do it. I'm just showing you so that you can see how to use both. So whichever one you have in your classroom is the one that you're going to use to paint your picture. Watercolors is going to look exactly the same. My watercolor is a bit brighter because I didn't add as much water to it. So the more water you add to the food coloring or your watercolors, the lighter the color is going to be. So you can see the difference here. We need to be really careful not to paint over our sails because we want to keep them red and white. This helps them stand out nicely. When you're doing a picture, you should always have something that stands out. It's called the focal point. Now, once you start painting, you can't stop and have a chat with your friend. You need to keep going. If you find that the paint is not spreading nicely and you've got big dark marks on your page, all you need to do is dip your paintbrush in the water and rub your paintbrush over it, and it will help the paint to spread a little bit, but you really need to work fast. Once you start painting, you've got to keep going till the end. Now, just to make my page match, I'm going to paint over my sky again with a bit of this paint. One thing that's really nice about using watercolors and pastels is that they don't mix with each other. So it doesn't matter if you go out the lines a little bit, the watercolors and the oil pastels will fight against each other, and the water won't dry onto the oil pastels. You can just wipe it off. It doesn't matter how long you leave it. Right, good luck with your painting. I hope your pictures came out beautifully and that you had fun doing the worksheet that I left for you. What we're going to do now that our pictures are dry is add a little bit more pattern to it, because pattern is the art element that we're looking at this term. So what we're going to do is add some cloud patterns to the sky. Now, if I think of clouds, I think of these big swirly, big round patterns. Right, so what we're going to do is draw our nice cloud patterns with white, because often we see some white clouds in the sky and they go nicely with the blue background. We're going to start almost like we're drawing a snail's shell. And then after you've gone around 3 or 4 times, you can just take it out to the edge of your page. And you can draw some lines that follow along there. I'm going to draw a nice big swirl down here. So I'm just drawing all these twirly patterns. Draw a nice small one. So try and make each one a different size to make it a bit more interesting. If they're all the same size, it can look a little bit boring. We're just going to fill up our whole sky with these twirly cloud patterns. And there we have our beautiful boat picture. I hope you had lots of fun making this picture with me today. Keep your eyes out for our Get Started art videos. They have awesome ideas and lots of cool pictures to draw with step-by-step instructions.